My name is Elmahdi Oummih, and I work for the African Leadership Academy. We're a leadership academy that's located in the outskirts of Johannesburg, South Africa. And our goal is to create 6,000 leaders over the next 50 years. We go all over the world looking for the best and brightest future entrepreneurs who will affect positive change, hopefully on a global scale. We find these future young leaders and we bring them to the ALA for 2 years where they study entrepreneurship and leadership. And then we help them get into universities and follow them and maintain contact with them and ultimately bring them back to the continent where they can change their countries or change Africa in general by employing people and by creating their own businesses. The way that this works is we take first round applications, which right now they're due by March 31st, 2012. To apply for the first round, you just go to the website, which is at www.africanleadershipacademy.org, and you can download an application in French, in Portuguese, or in English, of course. If you want an application in Arabic, you can email me personally at EOUMMIH@africanleadershipacademy.org. Once you get the first round application, you answer the questions and you email it back to us. We anticipate getting close to 3,000 first round applications from all over the world. From these first round applications, we then decide on who the finalists are going to be. We have roughly around anywhere from 300 to 400 finalists. So roughly 1 in 10 becomes a finalist. These finalists are then collected in a given country and they're brought to a central location and put through what we call finalist events. Now, the benefit of these finalist events is that it creates entrepreneurs. Because what do you need to be an entrepreneur? Well, you need to be a leader and you need to think outside the box and you need to be willing to work hard and obviously, in my mind, have a lot of integrity. So when we bring these kids together, they're coming from all different cities and they're coming to a central location and they're seeing kids that they would have never otherwise met. So the smartest kid in a place like Guera, which is in the border of Mauritania, gets to meet the smartest kids or the most ingenuitive kids from Oujda, which is on the Algerian border, or from Marrakesh. And when they get to meet each other, they get to see the similarities that they have as opposed to the differences that they have. One of the big problems with business in Morocco and in Africa, in North Africa in general, is that there's very little trust. Whereas in the United States, you go to a coffee shop and you might hire a high school kid and you might trust them to collect the money for the coffee and put it in the register and come at the end of the day and find the money there. Here, that's almost unheard of. And what that does, it limits the growth of business. Because instead of having a very good model spread over 10 or 12 different locations, you have only one store. Because the owner of that store has to physically be there and watch the money coming in because they don't trust anybody. Because the integrity, they don't feel that other people have integrity that are outside of their families. So we hope that when these kids meet these other amazing kids, that they see that integrity is possible outside of your family. And this will help them build networks whereby if they want to open up a store or a business in Burkhan and they're from Oujda, they're going to remember that kid that was from Burkhan, that was obviously an amazing student and at the same time had real entrepreneurial fire and integrity, and they're going to work with them. And these kids form these bonds at a young enough age whereby they're able to develop lifelong relationships. So the real benefit of ALA is not so much for the kids, not just for the kids that we actually end up admitting, but more so for the finalists who are then going to be the future leaders of that country. In my mind, what makes a true entrepreneur is integrity. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but if you do the right thing by your customers, by your partners, by your clients, you won't have to look forward to get more customers and clients and partners. And so one of the things that I think is key is to foster this notion that integrity trumps everything else. In terms of some success stories or some amazing stories of kids that have come to the ALA, I can tell you about William Kawakamba, a kid that was growing up in a farm in Malawi. His parents couldn't afford his school fees, so he had to drop out of school. And he's there and there's a drought. One day he goes to a library, kid can barely read, looks at a book with a windmill on it, sees a picture of a windmill, opens up the book, sees a picture of a windmill, somehow generating electricity and spreading water on a field. It dawns on him to take action, to go back to his farm and to find scrap pieces of wood, pieces of bicycles, all kinds of stuff, and build a windmill. And everybody's thinking he's a nutcase. They're like, why is this kid not helping his dad while there's a drought on the farm and instead building this windmill? The kid built 4 windmills. He was 16. Now, he's at a top-notch university in the United States. He's written a best-selling book. He was interviewed on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I mean, and he plans on going back to Africa to build windmills all over Africa. And this is something that is just inspirational. And you can't help but be inspired by kids like this. A leader, number 1, identifies a problem. Number 2, they solve the problem. And all of us, we all do this on a daily basis. We identify problems. We all moan about things. And then sometimes we might even have solutions to those problems. But how often does anybody motivate others to see their vision and help them affect their vision? And that is what's needed, particularly in the Maghreb, particularly in Africa. We need to be able to motivate others to serve their interests, not our own interests, but the interests of the people that we lead, the people that we hire, to affect solutions on a global scale to problems we see every day. And this is what the great entrepreneurs have done. And this is something that we need to foster and develop. One way that we can foster and develop this is by increasing trade in the Maghreb region. I mean, everybody says this. You have Algeria, you have Morocco. I mean, they complement each other so well. Algeria, if they want an orange or a banana, they're paying a ridiculous amount of money for it coming in from France or Spain. Morocco is spending a lot of money on petrol products. So wouldn't it make more sense for them to trade with one another, open the borders, collaborate? You're talking about the longest frontier with the least amount of trade in the world. While at the PNB NAPIO conference, which by the way was awesome, I met Algerians, I met Libyans, I met Egyptians, and they all complained about the same thing. Why are we not trading with one another? Because when you trade with one another, not only do you reduce the barriers that exist socially, but you also improve economic prosperity. And that's the key towards getting rid of the unemployment problems that are plaguing the region. And in a lot of ways, towards combating the instability issues, terrorism and things like that. If you give a guy means to support their family, I don't think they're going to be blowing themselves up anytime soon. So there's a direct correlation between unemployment rates and extremism. So the best way to combat this extremism is by reducing the unemployment rates. The future it's in the hands of our youth. And we need to give them the opportunity. That's it. Because an entrepreneur, if he's given the opportunity, he'll run with it. Number 1, follow your passion. Never compromise on your integrity and be out there. Because it's not going to come to you. You need to go out and find it. And don't be afraid. Never be afraid. If you follow your passion, if you act with integrity, good things will happen.